السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala with كتاب الروض المربع شرح زاد المستقنع, and I will just continue from where we stopped inshallah without reviewing anything from before. And if we need and if you have any questions from what's before, at the end inshallah ta'ala. So we are on page 84 from that version that we have, where it says here, وَإِنْ شَكَّ فِي نَجَاسَةِ مَاءٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ. So we're still in the third category of water, which is a najis. And now the subject of الشك, or the doubts. الشك والاشتباه, as we will see inshallah. And I hope everyone is paying attention, because it needs to for us to be focused and to even make sure that every mas'ala is clear, and to differentiate between different wordings. Every word is very precisely used because it has different foundations to it. And to also remember that the ulama rahimahumullah, when they mention these masail and the rulings and the ahkam related to it, it's based on principles. And these principles and usul are based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, whether it has a nas, a hadith, or a verse in the Quran, or a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, or it refers to some of these principles from the Quran and the Sunnah with the general nusus in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and one of which is this subject when you have doubt with regards to whether something is impure or not. So we'll read it first, and then we will try to summarize and put things in the right perspective, inshallah ta'ala. So if you follow here, he says in Zad al-Mustaqni', the one in red, وَإِنْ شَكَّ فِي نَجَاسَةِ مَاءٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ أَوْ طَهَارَتِهِ بَنَى عَلَى الْيَقِينِ. So the last three words here, this is the hukm. The first here is the mas'ala. What is the mas'ala? What is the issue here? وَإِنْ شَكَّ. And if he shakka, that means he's in doubt. في نجاسة ماء, with regards to the najasa of water. Najasa is impurity of water. أو غيره, other than water. From الطاهرات, من الطاهرات, from the whatever is pure. So anything, whether it's water or other than water, if a person is in doubt whether it's impure or not. أو طهارته, or its purification. What does that mean? أو شك في أي طهارة شيء علمت نجاسته قبل الشك. Or a person has a doubt in the purification of something that it's been known, علمت in the passive tense. It's already known its najasa, najasatuhu قبل الشك, before the doubt. So you have two things here, two cases. One case, a person has water in a container, and he's in doubt whether this water is impure or not. The second case is also container that have water, but we know for sure that had najasa before. So we have certainty that it was impure, but now the doubt is whether this impure water, whether this najis water has been purified or not. You see the difference here between both? So وَإِنْ شَكَّ فِي نَجَاسَةِ مَاءٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ مِنَ الطَّاهِرَاتِ. So whether the doubt is that we're not sure if it's pure or not. Or, and of course, having the doubt, that means something happened or something that is a sign of having the doubt, not just doubt for no reason. Or the second case is that we had water that was for sure najis, impure. Then say, for example, you left it for a few days and you came back and you found the water clear and clean and no najasa signs in it. So you're in doubt now whether it's pure or not. So now what's the ruling here? بنى على اليقين. بنى, البناء is to build on something. So you build on, meaning you build your ruling upon al-yaqeen, which is certainty. So what's yaqeen? What's your certain upon? Then stay in the state of al-yaqeen. So the ruling, which is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and the principle is that you don't change from the state of yaqeen, certainty, to something else by doubt. It has to be another yaqeen. So what is meant by that is, he mentioned it in the sharh. الذي أو بنى على اليقين الذي علمه قبل الشك. He would make his ruling based on the certainty that he knew before the doubt, that he's in now. So before you continue, if you go back here, so if there's a container of water that you're not sure if it's impure or not, you know for sure that it was pure, but something fell in it, so you're not sure if it's impure or not, right? Then what's the yaqeen? The yaqeen that it's pure. So this is, you treat it as pure. Why? Because you know for sure that it was clean, it was tahur, but then something fell in it. And of course, we have to consider what we mentioned before. So if the water was less than qullatin and something impure for sure fell in it and nothing changed, according to the madhab, is the water is impure, right? But here, if you're in doubt, so the doubt is like, a person is not sure whether it's becomes impure or not, then in this case, your certainty is that you know before the doubt that this water was tahur, was pure. So this is the ruling of this water. He says, وَلَوْ مَعَ سُقُوطِ عَظْمٍ أَوْ رَوَثٍ شَكَّ فِي نَجَسَتِهِ. Even, وَلَوْ. And usually when Imam Buti says وَلَوْ, even if, that means there's some differences of opinions or some other riwayat in this subject. وَلَوْ مَعَ سُقُوطِ عَظْمٍ. Even if with the falling of bone or droppings, like the feces of the animals, شَكَّ فِي نَجَاسَتِهِ, that he has doubt whether it's impure or not. Because as it will come, the rawath, or the droppings of the animals that are permissible for us to eat, it's not najis, is not impure. Yes, you stay away from it, of course, but we're talking about the religious impurity. That means if it falls into the water, yes, you don't want to use this water, but the water is pure, religiously is pure, meaning that you can use it for wudu. So even if bone or droppings of an animal that you're in doubt whether it's impure or not, whether it's from an animal that is permissible for us to eat or not. So even if that happens, why? This is the principle now. He mentioned now the principle that we're supposed to follow. لأن الأصل بقاؤه على ما كان عليه. Because al-asl is, the foundation is that you stay in the same ruling as what it's been before. This is al-asl. And the word al-asl is the foundation, is the principle that we follow, that you can use it in many different masail. Where that al-yaqeen is what you act upon. You don't act upon shak. You don't act upon doubt. You always go back to the yaqeen. So hope this mas'ala is clear. So now you have a container of water. You're in doubt whether it's impure or not. Or it was pure. It was impure for sure. And then something happened to it. So you're not sure if it's becomes pure or not. So in this case where you know for sure that the water was impure, was najis, you know that with certainty. And then you came after a day and you find it changed, right? But you're in doubt. If you are certain that the water is pure, then that's pure. But if you're in doubt, the original ruling of the water that it's impure, that did not change or does not change by the doubt. It has to be with certainty. So that means this water becomes impure because that's what you know with certainty. So he says, وَإِنْ أَخْبَرَهُ عَدْلٌ بِنَجَاسَتِهِ وَعَيَّنَ السَّبَبِ لَزِمَ قَبُولُ خَبَرِهِ. Then here is related to this, وَإِنْ أَخْبَرَهُ عَدْلٌ. If adl, someone that is trustworthy, someone that is righteous, someone that is, he knows what he's saying, informed him بِنَجَاسَتِهِ. He informed him that the water is impure. You're a person going to make wudu from this container, that he's in doubt whether the water is pure or not. So someone that is trustworthy and righteous person, that means is not a kafir, is not someone fasiq, openly commits sin, someone that a person can be trusted. He says to him that this water is najis. Be careful, this water is impure. So this is one condition here. The second thing, وَعَيَّنَ السَّبَبِ. عَيَّنَ السَّبَبِ, that means he specifically mentioned the reason. Then لَزِمَ قَبُولُ خَبَرِ. لَزِمَ, that means it becomes obligatory upon the person to accept his khabar, to accept his akhbar, his information, what he informed him. That means it's mandatory then not to use this water. Why? Because adl, these are two conditions. If one is missing, then a person is permissible for him to use the water or to apply the previous rulings here. So it has to be adl, has to be a trustworthy person, and he has to mention the reason. So if a trustworthy person, he comes to you when you're about to make wudu from a container that you're in doubt whether, or you're not in doubt, but he comes and he says, this water is impure. By the way, this water is impure. And he did not say a reason. Then you don't have to listen to what he said. You don't have to listen to what he says. But if he says this is impure because there's urine in it, so he mentioned the reason why it's impure, then you have to take his statement and he has to be adl. Adli means that he's a Muslim, he's a righteous person to what appears, and he has knowledge of what he's saying. Because sometimes people, they would say it's najis when it's not najis. So this is lazima qabulu khabarihi. So this is the first case. إن شك في نجاسة ماء أو غيره أو طهارته بنى على اليقين. If he's in doubt, then he would build his ruling or judgment based on the yaqeen that was before the doubt comes. The next statement, he says, وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ طَهُورٌ وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ طَهُورٌ بِنَجِسٍ حَرُمَ اسْتِعْمَالُهُمَا. Inshallah, at the end, you should be able to put numbers, put marks so that you understand the different masail here, inshallah. Now you have ishtibah. That means different than shak. The word ishtabaha. Ishtabaha, that means also in doubt, but you have something tahur and something najis. That means two containers. One has tahur, one has a pure water, and one has impure water. And you're not sure which is which. This is al-ishtibah. Right? So you have one that is pure and one that is impure. They're not in the same water as the previous one. The previous one, it's only one container. But here now, al-ishtibah is that you have certainty that one is pure and one is impure. And you need to make wudu. So you're not sure which container of water to use. Now, al-ishtibah here, in ishtabaha, that means he's not sure which one is which. Then the ruling is حرم استعمالهما. I would read first Zad al-Mustaqni. It says حرم استعمالهما. It's haram to use them both. ولم يتحرى. And there is no need for him to, التحري is to investigate. ولا يشترط للتيمم إراقتهما ولا خلطهما, which is now with the tayammum that he's going to mention. So first, وإن اشتبه طهور بنجس حرم استعمالهما. So the surah or the mas'ala is clear here. Two containers. He says here in the sharh, إن لم يمكن تطهير النجس بالطهور. There's exception here. Unless إن لم يمكن, unless it's not feasible, تطهير النجس بالطهور, to purify the najis, the impure, with a tahur. How can that be? Which is the next statement. You have, again, it's very important to picture the mas'ala. You have two containers. One has tahur, that is tahur, and one that has najis. And we know what tahur is and what najis is. And he's not sure which one is which. So if he's able, as he says in the sharh, if you're able to purify the najis with a tahur, if you pour the tahur in the najis, and that najis becomes pure. And before we continue, how can that happen based on what we studied before? So I hear someone saying, or hopefully someone should be heard saying, that if the tahur is more than the qullatain, right? If the tahur is more than the qullatain and the najis is less. So if you mix the tahur, the pure that is more than qullatain, or you put the najis in it and it's more than qullatain, nothing changed, so the water is tahur. Correct? So he says, إِلَّمْ يُمْكِنْ تَطْهِيرُ النَّجِسِ بِالطَّهُورِ. If it was not feasible to purify the najis, to purify the impure with a tahur, فإن أمكن بأن كان الطهور قلتين فأكثر. So if it's feasible, how is that? That the tahur is قلتين or more. وكان عنده إناء يسعهما. And also he has a container. إناء is a container. He has a dish, he has a container that يسعهما, that is spacious enough for both of them. And huma is in the dual tense. And يسع from al-wasi'a, that means big enough, spacious enough. وَكَانَ عِنْدَهُ إِنَاءٌ يَسَعُهُمَا. Why this is mentioned here? Because of if he's not having a container that can have both of them, if he put some of the tahur water in a container that is small and then put the najasa in it, we didn't do anything. It becomes impure. It has to be more than qullatain. The water is more than qullatain that is pure, and you put najasa in it, and they're both can be contained in one container. وجب خلطهما واستعمالهما, then وجب, it's obligatory to mix them and to use them. Then it's obligatory to mix them and to use them. Again, here اشتبه, right? اشتبه means that you're not sure which is tahur and which is najis, right? So but one is more than qullatin, which is I guess here if the tahur is qullatin, then we know that this is tahur. So this is if you mix them, then you can use them, and there's no harm in this case whatsoever. And as you see here, the asl is that everything is pure unless it's proven otherwise. Then he says, وَلَمْ يَتَحَرَّ. That means he doesn't have to investigate. He doesn't have to investigate. In that case, أي لم ينظر أيهما يغلب على ظنه أنه الطهور. لم يتحرى, that means he did not look, he did not investigate which one, أيهما, which of the two, يغلب على ظنه. غلبة الظن is that it's more likely. He's not in doubt anymore, but he would think, I think this is to be more of, that this is the tahur. He does not need to investigate أنه الطهور فيستعمله. So if situation like this, he should not say, well, that's more likely for this to be the tahur and the one in najis, so he would use the tahur. No, he should not do this. Why? Because again, al-ishtibah is there. Al-ishtibah is there, or the matter of doubt is there. Why? Because if he mixes them, then the doubt is removed, because it for sure then becomes pure. He says, وَلَوْ زَادَ عَدَدُ الطَّهُورِ, even if the tahur is more. That means, for example, we have 5 containers of water that is tahur, and the 6th one is najis, is impure. But you don't know which one is najis and which one is tahur. Then in that case, it's haram to use them. It's haram to use them. So if a person is not able to figure out which one is which, then it's haram to use them. ولم يتحرى أي لم ينظر أيهما يغلب على ظنه أنه الطهور فيستعمله. ولو زاد عدد الطهور, even if it's the number of containers of a tahur is more. ويعدل إلى التيمم إن لم يجد غيرهما. Then in that case, since it's haram to use it, because he might use one that is najis, so then he makes tayammum if he did not find any of these 2 types of water. And the tayammum here, as it's going to be mentioned, tayammum here because he does not have water. When do we make tayammum, as it's going to be mentioned in tayammum? In adim al-ma', if there's no water, then you make tayammum. And here in this case, you don't have water. Why? Because you're not sure, that which one is tahur and which one is najis. Again, it's not to open the door of waswas and a person to be having compulsion. It's about you have certainty that one container is najis and the rest are tahur and the rest are pure. So, and you cannot, if you mix them now for sure you know that it's tahur, then you have to do that. But if you're not able to mix them or they're less, then it's not permissible to use any of them, because there's a possibility that you would use water that is impure. So in that case, they say that means you don't have water. So what's the ruling if you don't have water? And of course, you seek water and you don't find any water, because tayammum, as it will come into the rulings of a tayammum, you have to seek the water. So all of the other means are taken, and there is no pure water. Then in that case, you make tayammum. In lam yajid. That's why I said in lam yajid ghayrahuma. If he does not find any other except these two. And then he says ولا يشترط للتيمم إراقتهما ولا خلطهما. It is not a condition for the tayammum إراقتهما, that there are these two types of water to be spilled to pour them out, ولا خلطهما, or to mix them. Why this is mentioned? Because a person would say, how can a person mix tayammum when there is water right next to him? So a person would say, well, let me spill them first, and then I can make tayammum, because now the verse applies to me that I don't have the water. No, you don't have to, because he has the same ruling as if he does not have water. Because if the water is impure, then as if you don't have water. So you don't have to pour them first. You don't have to mix them first before you make tayammum if you have to make tayammum. He says لأنه غير قادر على استعمال الطهور, because he's not able to use the tahur. Therefore he makes tayammum. أشبه, similar to the case ما لو كان في بئر لا يمكنه الوصول إليه. Like the case of he has a well, there is a well, but he's not able to reach the water in the well. He's not able to get the water from the well, and he's right there. And there's no other water that he can use for tahara. What is the ruling for that person? He makes tayammum and he makes salah, and there's no harm on him. Or someone that is sick in such a way that using water is harmful for him, and the water is present, right? So he would make tayammum even though the water is present. So the same case applies here. So go back to the al-Mustaqni and see if you understand it or not. وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ طَهُورٌ بِنَجِسٍ حَرُمَ اسْتِعْمَالُهُمَا. And remember what ishtabaha means. Ishtabaha is different than the first case. Ishtabaha, that means you have tahur and you have najis, two separate containers. Then it's haram to use them. Even walam yataharra, and he does not have to investigate, even if the numbers of them are more. ولا يشترط للتيمم إراقتهما ولا خلطهما. It's not a condition for the tayammum in this case, because it's haram to use. So that means what? Can you pray without making tahara? No, you have to make tahara. So you have then to make tayammum, and it's not a condition for the tayammum that you would spill them. This is al-iraqa, or khaltuhuma, or to mix them. If you go back up again, وإن شك في نجاسة ماء أو غيره أو طهارته بنى على اليقين. If the doubt was in the najasa of the water or other than the water, or whether it's pure or was impure and then changed, بنى على اليقين, then he would build his ruling based on the yaqeen. وإن اشتبه طهور بنجس حرم استعمالهما. You see the difference between the two cases here. The first one you built on the yaqeen. The second one you don't have yaqeen, because there is tahur and there is najis and they're not mixed, they're separate. But you're not sure which one is which. So حرم استعمالهما, it's haram to use them both. ولم يتحرى, you should not investigate. ولا يشترط للتيمم إراقتهما ولا خلطهما. Then he continues by saying وكذا لو اشتبه مباح بمحرم. The same ruling applies لو اشتبه مباح بمحرم. You have mubah, you have something mubah, something permissible, and something that is haram. Meaning the water. What is the haram water? We're not talking about najis here. Be careful, as we said, the words are very precise. The water, if it's stolen, as we talked about it before, can a person make wudu from a stolen water? The answer is no. It's haram to do that. And it does not make the person in state of tahara. So you have two containers. One is permissible. The water is pure, tahur for sure. You know that you can point at this container, says, you say the water here is tahur, is pure, no doubt. but it's permissible. I'm sorry, it meaning it's pure, and both are pure. Two containers of water, they're both tahur, they're both pure, but you're not sure one of them has been stolen, but you're not sure which one. So you have certainty that one of them is stolen, but you're not sure which one. So this is al-ishtibah. What happened? What's the ruling? فَيَتَيَمَّمْ إِن لَمْ يَجِدْ غَيْرَهُمَا. Then also he has to make tayammum if he does not find other than these two containers. Person would say, why don't he make wudu one time here, one time there? There's a problem here, because this will be mentioned as a ruling for something else. Can he make two wudu, one from each container? So if he does this, now a person would say, now he is for sure, he know that he made wudu from something that is pure. But what if he used the pure first, and then he used najas? Then he has najasa on him. So that means as if he didn't do anything. That's why ishtabah. So in that case, it's haram to use them and to make tayammum. He says, وَيَلْزَمُ مَنْ عَلِمَ النَّجِسَ إِعْلَامُ مَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَسْتَعْمِلَهُ. It's a separate مسألة here. يلزم. And the word يلزم, لزم. لزم is the past tense. يلزم is the present tense. That means al-luzum is by necessity. It's an obligation. It's one of the words of wujub or obligation. Upon the one that alim al-najis, the one that knows al-najis, he knows that this container of water is najis, then it's mandatory for him i'lamu. Al-i'lam is to inform. Man arada an yasta'milahu, he has to inform the one that wants to use it. So if you see someone is going to make wudu from a container, and you know for sure that this is najis, then you have to inform him. Haram for you to not to inform him. This is something that he mentioned here in the sharh. So hopefully this is clear so far, because it's going to get a little bit of, not complicated, but more built on this. So this is ash-shak wal-ishtibah. Ash-shak, doubt, and al-ishtibah is not knowing which one is which. I guess you can help me out with giving a terminology for ash-shak or al-ishtibah. Or you can check the difference between them both. We don't have to know things in English. It's sufficient for us in Arabic, inshallah. But there's something called ash-shak versus al-ishtibah. Ash-shak is doubt, and al-ishtibah is to have doubt which is which. So now he says the next one. وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ. Now ishtibah here, not shak. Right? وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ. I read the red. وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ بِطَاهِرٍ تَوَضَّأَ مِنْهُمَا وُضُوءًا وَاحِدًا. Now the second case of al-ishtibah, you have tahur, as he says in the sharh. وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ طَهُورٌ بِطَاهِرٍ. You have two containers. Remember, with al-ishtibah, you have two containers, two separate waters, different than the shak. So if you have two containers, one is tahur and one is tahir. And what's the ruling of the tahir? It's pure, but you cannot use it for wudu or ghusl. So one is tahur, one is tahir, but you're not sure which one is which. So what a person should do here? He says, أَمْكَنَ جَعْلُهُ طَهُورًا بِهِ أَمْ لَا. Whether he is able to make one tahur like the previous case or not. So you can, if you mix them together and now for sure you know that it's tahur, not tahir, whether this is done or not, it doesn't matter. It does not change the ruling here. You don't have to do this like the previous one if it's more than qullatin. What happens? What's the ruling here? تَوَضَّأَ مِنْهُمَا وُضُوءًا وَاحِدًا, but with details. He would make wudu from both of them. وُضُوءًا وَاحِدًا. One wudu, not two wudus. One wudu from both of them. وَلَوْ مَعَ طَهُورٍ بِيَقِينٍ. Even if it's with tahur, if the tahur is with certainty. You know that this is tahur with certainty. Right? مِنْ هَذَا غَرْفَ وَمِنْ هَذَا غَرْفَ. One gharfa from this. Gharfa is handful. So you're making one wudu from this container gharfa and from this container gharfa. That means what? You wash your hands 3 times. Say, for example, one time from this container, one time from that container. You make madmada and al-istinshaq for your mouth and nose. One from this container, one from this container in the same wudu. Not that you make an entire wudu with one container and then you start over again another wudu from the other container. No. He says here, you make one wudu. You make one wudu, one gharfa from this and one gharfa from that. This is what he says. من هذا غرفة ومن هذا غرفة. ويعم بكل واحدة من الغرفتين المحل. ويعم, العموم is when it's general, but here يعم, that means the present tense of covering the entire organ that's supposed to be washed. بكل واحدة من الغرفتين المحل. المحل is the place of washing or the place of wudu. So for example, if a person washing his face, what constitutes the face that makes the wudu mandatory is the face from where normally the hair grown to the bottom of the shin and from one ear to the other. So if he's using the two containers, one handful from the first one, he washes the entire face. Sometimes when you make wudu twice or three times, if you did not cover the face with water from the first one, you can do it from the second one, and that's sufficient. You don't have it does not have to be covered or washed completely from the first wash because you're doing it two or three times. But in this case, since you're using one handful from here, one handful from there, then each one has to cover the entire organ. That's what he says here. ويعم بكل واحدة من الغرفتين المحل. So he says وصلى صلاة واحدة. وصلى صلاة واحدا. And he would make one صلاة واحدة. قال في المغني والشرح بغير خلاف نعلمه. من قدامى he said in the Mughni Sharh, without any differences of opinions that we know. Meaning you don't have to pray two salah, basically. You don't pray the dhuhr twice. You only pray one salah and that's sufficient. And even in the previous case, if a person made tayammum, he does not have to repeat the salah if the water or pure water for sure comes in place. So here to make one salah. Clear? So again, that's he says وإن اشتبه زاد المستقنع وإن اشتبه بطاهر توضأ منهما وضوءا واحدا. إن اشتبه, الاشتباه, he's ambiguous, it's not clear to him. بطاهر, with a طاهر, that means what's added here is طهور. توضأ, he would make wudu from both of them. منهما, dual tense, مثنى. وضوءا واحدا, one wudu. من هذا غرفة, from this one غرفة, and from this one غرفة. وصلى صلاة واحدة, and he only makes one salah. Here there's a separate مسألة in the sharh. He says فإن احتاج أحدهما للشرب. If he needs احتاج أحدهما, one of the two waters in these two containers, if he needs one of them to drink, he can drink from a tahir or a tahur. He wants to drink. It's water used for drinking. Then what should he do? تحرى وتوضأ بالطهور عنده وتيمم ليحصل له اليقين. Then تحرى. Here is تحرى. Then if he needs to drink from the containers, so he needs to figure out which one is which, so that one will be for drinking and one for wudu. Then تحرى. Then he would investigate, think about the matter, which one evidences looks like this. And then وتوضأ بالطهور عنده. Then he makes wudu with what he thinks is tahur after a tahari, after looking into the matter. وتيمم, and to make tayammum. Why? So that the tayammum will give him the yaqeen, because now he made the wudu and tayammum. This is in the case that he wants to use it for drinking. Right? So this is how the mas'ala here is. So this is all to bring the matter to yaqeen. وإن اشتبه بطاهر توضأ منهما وضوءا واحدا. من هذا غرفة ومن هذا غرفة وصلى صلاة واحدة. Clear? Now a third case. But now here with regards to the clothings. And this is the last matter here, as we see, and then we can try to bring it all together, inshallah. He says, وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَتْ ثِيَابٌ طَاهِرَةٌ بِنَجِسَةٍ. Now, al-ishtibah, still in the ishtibah. It's ambiguous, it's not clear. Some thiyab is the plural of thawb, clothing, طاهرة. When you say clothing that is pure, طاهر in water is different than tahur, correct? But a thiyab, clothing or the floor or whatever, you don't need to say tahur, right? Tahur and tahir is only, the terminology is used for water. But for a thiyab tahir, that means it's clean, it's pure, right? So إن اشتبهت ثياب طاهرة بنجسة أي بثياب النجسة. Basically, al-ishtibah, again, as we said, that means it's not the same cloth, it's not the same garment, it's different garments. So you have, for example, 5 pants, right? One of them is impure for sure, and the rest are pure, but you're not sure which is which. So this is the mas'ala here. And of course, you have to cover the awra when you make in salah. إن اشتبهت ثياب طاهرة بثياب النجسة. Someone hearing this, he would say, well, just go wash it. Yes, mashallah, that's what it's supposed to be done. But again, you're in a situation that you have ease. What if you don't have the ease? And this is a universal deen, that for everyone, in whatever person is in whatever position there is, and the salah is mandatory, and you have to have wudu, and you have to have tahara, and the matter is easy. This is not to make things difficult, but rather it shows the ease of the religion, right? And إذا ضاق الأمر اتسع. If the matter is tight, then you find the spaciousness in it. So you have multiple clothings, and you have to cover the awra, of course. And one is najis and the rest is pure, and you're not sure which is which. This is what the meaning of when اشتبهت ثياب طاهرة بثياب النجسة. يعلم عددها. He knows the numbers of it. He knows the number of it, 5, 6, whatever. So this is the first one. أو or بمحرمة. أو اشتبهت ثياب مباحة بثياب محرمة. يعلم عدده. The same thing as previously, or you have numbers of clothings, and some is permissible to wear, and some of it is haram, stolen again, and you're not sure. If you're sure, then you put the haram away, and you use what is halal. There's no doubt about this. We're talking here about al-ishtibah. You're not sure which pant is stolen versus the rest that are permissible to wear. So what's the ruling here? And again, if you imagine the mas'ala here, if you wear one, what if that's the impure one? Then the salah is not valid. If you wear the haram one, then the salah is not valid. So what should you do in this case? He says, صلى في كل ثوب صلاة بعدد النجس. صلى, that person would make salah in each thawb, في كل ثوب, in every garment, صلاة, one salah, بعدد النجس, by the numbers of the impure. وزاد, and he would add one. What does that mean? 5 garments. 2 of them is impure, but you're not sure which one is which. Then how many salat dhuhr that you would pray then, because you're about to make salat dhuhr? You would pray 3 times. صلى في كل ثوب صلاة بعدد النجس. That means he would make صلاة صلى في كل ثوب, in every garment, صلاة by the number of najis. So for every salah he would pray, like salatul dhuhr for example, he would pray 3 times. If he know that it's 2 najis, then he would pray 3 times to make sure that he prayed one salah with something that is pure. And then the next salah comes, he do the same thing, if that's the only case that he has. He says من الثياب أو المحرم منها, whether it's in the first case impure versus the haram. ينوي بها الفرض احتياطا. He has the intention that this is the fard, and he would do this احتياطا. That means he's been on the safe side. كمن نسي صلاة من يوم. The same ruling as when if someone forgets a salah in one day, but you're not sure which salah that you forgot. You know that you missed a salah a couple of days ago. You did not pray it, but you're not sure if it's Fajr or Dhuhr or Asr or Maghrib or Isha. According to this, he has to do what? He has to pray all the salawat, each one, because you're not sure which one that he missed. Why would you assume that it's Fajr? Why would you assume that it's Dhuhr? Again, this is the case when a person, he's not sure which salah that he missed. And he said, wazada, here he would add another one. So the two najah, he know that it's two of them are najis, and that means he would add another one. That means he prayed it 3 times. على العدد صلاة ليؤدي فرضه بيقين, so that now he's in state of yaqeen, so that he would establish the fard with yaqeen, with certainty. So زاد المستقنع says وإن اشتبهت ثياب طاهرة بنجسة أو بمحرمة صلى في كل ثوب صلاة بعدد النجس وزاد صلاة. If اشتبهت, if the ثياب, the garments are, a person is not certain whether it's multiple garments, some is pure and some is najis, or some is permissible and some is haram, then he pray for in every thawb, in every garment, one, he would pray in every garment salah according to the numbers of the najasat. وزاد, and he would add one salah to it. He says فإن لم يعلم عدد النجسة أو المحرمة. This is in the case he knows how many najis garment, but if he doesn't know the numbers, he has 5 garments and he knows some of them are pure for sure, some of them are najis for sure, or some of them are halal for sure and some of them are haram for sure, but he's not sure which is which. So this is the second case. If فإن لم يعلم عدد النجسة أو المحرمة, what is لزمه, then it's obligatory upon him, and يصلي في كل ثوب صلاة, then he has to pray in every garment the salah. So if it's 5 and he doesn't sure how many najis versus pure, then he has to pray 5 times. The salah has to be prayed 5 times. Every salah is in different garment. حتى يتيقن, till he is certain أنه صلى في ثوب طاهر. That would make him with certainty that he prayed in a pure garment. ولو كثرت, even if it's so many. So as you see here, what's the principle that is being followed? Is that you are in state of yaqeen, state of certainty. So that's why these rulings like this, because of an asl, it's a foundation in the deen, that you don't build actions based on shak or doubt. He says ولا تصح في ثياب مشتبهة مع وجود طاهر يقينا. ولا تصح, that means the salah is not valid. في ثياب مشتبهة, in garments that are مشتبهة. مشتبهة, again, that means you're in doubt whether it's pure or not, multiple ones. When مع وجود طاهر يقينا, when you have a pure garment يقينا, with certainty. So if someone has, a few garments and he's not sure whether they are pure or not, but then he has one garment that you know for sure that this is pure, then what's the ruling here? If you pray in the mushtabih, if you pray the ones that you have doubt in, the salah is not valid, because you had the certainty. You have the garment that you have certainty that it's pure. Then he has to pray in the one that is pure, and this is a very obvious one. وَكَذَا, same ruling applies. The word كذا means the same thing. So you would find the same ruling applies. حكمه, sometimes he says مع the شبه, which is وهذا, like for example here the statement كذا لو اشتبه, كذا is the same or a different ruling as a result of this principle. And أشبه ما لو, that means if it's أشبه, that means he's trying to convince you that there's a like of it in other masail. So here he says وكذا, that means another ruling as a result of that. حكم أمكنة ضيقة, the ruling of أمكنة, plural of مكان, place. ضيقة, that means it's very tight. It's very tight to make salah. A place, a very tight place that is only fit for a person to make salah in it. and there's najasa there, but he's not sure which place that the najasa has in. So, for example, I mean, if you imagine a room that you can only have two spots to pray, it's a very narrow area that does not only fits one person, right? And the qibla is this direction, right? And you're not sure, and you know that there's najasa there, right? So, but you're not sure which place, right? Then you pray two times, one on the place versus another place. If there's two areas where you can make salah. So this is with regards to the spot. ويصلي في واسعة حيث شاء بلا تحر, and he prays in something spacious, whatever he will, without تحر, without having to investigate or to see, which one is clean. So someone has a very small room, has two corners, and there's najasa, right? He does not sure which one has the najasa. Then you pray according to how many spots that would make you in certainty that you prayed in a pure place, right? But if it's spacious, it's in the desert, for example, and you know that somewhere in this space, big space, there's najasa, then you pray whatever place you want to pray in. So this applies for those, for example, when they're traveling and you have a big area that you know for sure that there are dogs, they come and they urinate in that spacious area, right? Then you pray in any place and there's no harm, unless you don't see najasa, of course. It's different than a tight place. If it's very tight, it's either that spot or this spot, then you pray twice or three times according to the spots. Hopefully it's clear, inshallah. So this is with regards to the different cases of الشك and الاشتباه. الشك والاشتباه. So it's important to know the difference between الشك والاشتباه. الشك is in one thing. الاشتباه, that means more than one thing that you're not sure which one is which. So there are things here that are mentioned. First of all, اشتباه, in the subject of الاشتباه. This is what we covered. And then after that, we'll read it, inshallah. You have اشتباه, tahur water with najis. Means more than one container. One tahur, few najis. This is al-ishtibah. The second case was mubah with muharram. Something permissible versus something haram. You have ishtibah, tahur water with tahir. You have ishtibah with garments that is tahir versus najis, or halal versus haram. Right? So, and the difference between ash-shak wal-ishtibah. Ash-shak is in the same item. Al-ishtibah is two different items. And the ruling that brings it all together is al-yaqeen. You don't build an action based on doubt, but rather built on yaqeen. So let's read it one more time. Zad al-Mustaqni. He says, وإن شك في نجاسة ماء أو غيره أو طهارته بنى على اليقين. وإن اشتبه طهور بنجس حرم استعمالهما ولم يتحرى، ولا يشترط للتيمم إراقتهما ولا خلطهما. وإن اشتبه بطاهر توضأ منهما وضوءا واحدا، من هذا غرفة ومن هذا غرفة، وصلى صلاة واحدة. وإن اشتبهت ثياب طاهرة بنجسة أو بمحرمة صلى في كل ثوب صلاة بعدد النجس وزاد صلاة. That's what we have from Zad al-Mustaqni. So what's the hukm of each one? It's very important, but to understand what we're talking about for the hukm of it. So you have this is al-shak versus al-ishtibah. So let's see, inshallah, if you have any questions. We'll stop here, inshallah. And if you have any questions, we can hopefully, inshallah, ta'ala, try to make it clear, inshallah. Let's see here first. Uh, the attendance code is اشتبه. اشتبه, this is, if you write اشتبه, that means he is not clear to him which one is which. In the past tense. اشتباه is the noun. Now, to suspect. جزاكم الله خير. Suspect, yeah. But again, as you see here, but can you use the word suspect for two things? So a shak is with regards to one item. You're in doubt whether it's clean or not. Versus al-ishtibah if it's two items or more. طيب, he says here, for example, if there's close to a qulla or more of najas water, and someone mixes qullatain of pure water, would the water becomes pure. If the water is more than qullatain and you add najasa to it, even if it's lots of najasa, what's the ruling here? Is if something changed in the water, then it's impure. But nothing changed, then it's pure. That's different than if the pure water was less than qullatain. How would one have doubt if one container is qullatain and its color or taste or smell didn't change? Isn't this by default tahur? The answer is yes. And if its color changed, then one would know it's tahur. If the color changed with impurity and it's over than qullatain, then it's impure because it's changed. But if it didn't change, right, then it's pure, of course. So here, this was in the sharh, in the case that if you have water that is tahur that is more than qullatain, you mix it, then you have to mix it. You have to mix the najasa with the qullatain of that you know for sure it's tahur. Now, what is the evidence that that wudu with stolen water is invalid? This is the wudu with the maghsub, right? And this is why, because it's haram to use anything that does not belong to the person, right? And because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna dima'akum wa amwalakum wa aradakum haram," that your blood is haram, that your wealth is haram, that you're like this. So now, and it's by the way, it's a differences of opinions, but this is what the madhab is upon because of the fact that it's haram. That means it's not permissible for a person to use, and if something that is not permissible, then the ruling applies or built on that becomes not valid to make the person in state of tahara. Right. So to make it clear, we're not going into the differences of opinions. The madhab is that al-ma' al-maghsub, or the stolen water, is haram to use, and it does not change the status of tahara. The other opinion is it's haram to use, but the wudu is valid. Right? So it's all comes from the foundation in the deen when it comes to the validity of things based on something that has been stolen or haram. What about water or garment that a Hindu person has chanted a prayer on? Would it be najis or just muharram? If it's not stolen, right, and he chanted a prayer in it, does not make it muharram. The garment does not become haram by the action of the person, and it's not najis by his actions. It has to be something physical. It says also, if only a tight place was available and it had shubha but no visible najasa, would salah using a mat be permissible? If a person puts a mat on a najasa for sure, then the salah is valid. So it does not have, if the mat is put on the najasa, the bottom of the mat will be impure if he wants to put it somewhere. If he knows for sure that it's najasa. If it's shubha, if it's doubt, we don't build actions on doubt. Well, and I have to make this clear also. Or shubha, if you mean ishtibah. Ishtibah means that you have certainty. Al-ishtibah is not doubt. Al-ishtibah is certainty there is najasa, either in this spot or that spot. right? So you have certainty that there is najasa, but you're not sure which spot. That's why you repeat the salah. Different than if you say I'm in doubt whether there's najasa in this spot or that spot. Then what's the ruling here? Then you pray. You don't build an action based on doubt. And I hope this is very clear because this is very serious. This is very important differences between al-ishtibah and al-shak. Right? Al-ishtibah is that you know for sure that there's najasa, but you do not know which is which. Now, if someone is praying and forgets to check the exact qibla, direction of prayer, and prays on a arbitrary spot and later realizes that it was the wrong direction, do they need to repeat the salah? The ulama, they differentiate between someone that is a traveler versus someone that is residing in a place. If he resides in a place and he does not make taharri, he does not check to make sure that he's praying on the proper direction, then he has to repeat the salah. But if he's traveler, also the taharri has to be there, but it's of a lesser situation because it's not his place. So he would just guess and he makes the assumption that this is probably most likely that this is the qibla, and he prays. And if he discovered that this was wrong, his salah is valid. But they make it more tight for the one that is resident in a place. If it's a small place and a dog must have been there, then you have to pray in all of the spots in this place. And if it's a big place, then you can pray whatever you want if you haven't seen any najasa there. Is that correct? Yes, but the small place is what constitutes a small place. It's very, very tight, very, very small, that you would have a spot for your head, like 2 spots of your head, 4 spots of like this, not a small park versus a big park or something like that. No, very tight for the position of the person's head or body to be made in sujood or touching the ground on. What does it mean by the number of najasa? If you have al-ishtibah and you know the number of najasa, you have 5 garments, you know for sure that 1 is najis. Right? So that means you pray in each one, you pray according to the number of najis, and you add 1. You know that 1 only is najis, so you pray the salah twice, so you know for sure that you prayed 1 salah correctly. Doubt and ambiguous. But can you say ambiguous for the same item? No. How's the ruling different when one knows count of clothes versus doesn't know count? Could you please explain what's the difference between these 2 situations and the solution of these 2? Yes, if a person doesn't know the number of impure or najis in the numbers of clothing, then he has to pray in all of them. So again, the situation is he knows that some is pure and some is impure, but he's not sure how many numbers of the items are impure. Then he prays the salah as many as the numbers of the clothings. Now he knows for sure that he prayed it at least once in a pure clothing. But if you know the numbers of impure, so you have 5 garments, you know for sure that 2 of them only are impure. So if you pray the salah, you pray it only 3 times. You don't have to pray 5 times, like the first case. You only pray 3 times because 2 of them, if it happened that the first one and the second one is the 2 impure ones, then the third one is for sure for what is pure. Can you clarify again whether you have to check if all 3 have changed, if you have to? For example, if you are unsure if kathir water is najis, do you have to look, smell, and taste to make sure? If kathir water, you're not sure it's najis, that means what? If najasa falls in it and nothing changed, this is not doubt. The water is pure. This is what the significance of kathir and qalil. So if kathir water over kullatin, something impure falls in it, and nothing has changed, what's the hukm of this water? Doubt? No. It's a pure water. It's tahur because it's over qullatin. But the doubt, or when you're not sure if it changed, right? But then that change, you're not sure if it's from the najasa or not. Could you please give example of muharram garment being confused with mubah garment? Al-muharram garments can be, say for example, silk garment for a man, or stolen garment. And let's take the 5 numbers again. 5 garments. 2 of them, you know for sure that 2 have been stolen, and 3 are not stolen, pure. I mean halal. But you're not sure which one is which. Then in that case, you pray in one garment after the other, but 3 different garments is sufficient. 3 different garments is sufficient because 2 for sure is stolen, and if you prayed the third one, that means for sure that you prayed in one that is halal. Barakallahu fikum. Having the visible minor najasa knowingly on the underwear will require for the person to change it for a clean one. If it's not changed, then the person makes a prayer wudu and pray in such manner that invalidates the wudu and the prayer. If it's a visible minor najasa, and if a person washes it and the athar or the traces of it is still there, at least the color or so, the salah is valid because he did the best he can. But if it's visible and a person did not remove it, then and knowingly, then that invalidates the salah. And also with these types of things, and again with ilm, inshallah, there's no waswas comes in place. These matters are with certainty, not to act upon doubt. It has to be with certainty, inshallah. طيب, barakallahu fikum. And if there's anything that is not clear, we finished. We're about to start the aniyah, or the utensils. So make sure that this previous chapter is clear, inshallah ta'ala. And if you have any questions, please ask, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.